Season 7, Episode 1, number 266. I love that you're laughing because I didn't mention at all in our on-ramp that we were starting a new season. I
Uh-huh.
I find so this to me brings joy, and it brings joy because I'm a collector, and
Mhm.
I've collected, if I could be selfish for a moment, I've I've been part of a collection of 6 years of chatting with you on Saturday mornings. That's friggin' awesome, man. For a collector, it's like the be all and end all. So, season 7, episode 1, 266.
I wonder if other podcasters think that way.
If they're collectors
I
or
don't even know if I know any podcasters anymore. Do you know an do you know what I mean? Do you know of
I
any
know some,
podcasters?
uh, like I know famous podcasters, but
No, let's go like let's be locavore. So some of the like I'll ask you straight. Do you know okay, so we know Hurley. Hurley's still doing some stuff. I saw him. The voice head is there. It you know, who else? Is Shane? Is Shane still out there doing I think part of it is because I backed off. Well, a big part of it, I backed off X, so I'm not like that was like the main feed for all that kind of stuff, right? I know Shane moved over to a different podcast. I stopped kind of following a lot of the American based ones. I just wasn't interested anymore in American content of education, despite the lot. It's fascinating, but it just wasn't useful to me anymore. Um, but some of the old crew, you know what I mean?
yeah, I know what you mean. And I don't want to.
Pete, what Peter and D Rod. What were they?
Oh,
What were they doing? I just forget Peter's last name.
Peter Cameron.
Peter Cameron. They were starting something up a year ago, weren't they? Where they were. Remember they started something?
Yeah, I remember. Um,
Was it based off the Mad brand? I don't
it
know.
it was it was based off the Mad brand. I'm struggling here because I don't want to deviate from what we're talking about because the minute you bring up these names,
Hmm.
um, and you talk about X, also known as Twitter, my brain's in a different place, so I don't want to
Okay.
interrupt, but um, I don't see a lot of anything from those people anymore. But that's because of my algorithm is messed.
Yeah. Well, or intentionally
You know what I mean?
looking in different. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the searchlight's going in a different direction, right? Sarah Lalonde. Like, I don't know. I
No
don't
idea.
know.
Um, I was recently on a podcast with
Tell me.
Doug
Doug who?
Konopelko.
Never
Uh,
heard.
he's got a show called Focus on EDU,
Okay.
and he talked to me about re-engagement. So that's a good one. And then I was recently on another podcast, uh,
I love
which
this.
which is teacher radio in the UK, talking about re-engagement. So
Mhm.
I'm familiar with like when you say, "Do you know any podcasters still?" Those people are
Mhm.
they're in my feed, but they're in my feed for not because of EDU, because
Right.
of mental health, because of like other interests, right? And
Mhm.
so anyway, yes, that's there, but I don't. That's all I can say. Because if I keep talking, I'm gonna leave this topic, and I don't want to leave it yet. So
So bring us back. Bring us back.
bring us back.
Yeah, well, I was just I or what I was the starting point. Just do we are any podcasters out there anymore? I don't know.
I mean,
Uh,
Joe Marquez and Kyle
hmm.
Anderson, they've got one, but they haven't podcasted in a while. So, and then Kyle Anderson had one called Beer EDU, and he's not done that in a long time either. I don't know. I think life has gotten in the way.
Hmm.
And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and I can't remember who. Oh, maybe it was Joe Marquez and his podcast with Kyle and Tyler Keefe. He had a Friday night podcast that you and I jumped into here and there. He's in Idaho,
Hmm.
and him and his buddy used to do a Friday night thing, and that came up recently. And he said his buddy just stopped, like they couldn't make it work, so they just stopped. My response was, Chris and I still do it every Saturday morning because we found a time that works, which is really kind of interesting because I know you're doing like what makes me laugh is like on a Tuesday night, if you and I are still going back and forth poloing, you know, I've watched you send me a message where you're literally doing the dishes. You've got your headphones on so you can like you're talking to me, and if I talk back, only you can hear me, not your family. And you've positioned the phone in such a way that you're literally I can hear the water turn on, wipe the dish, like you're doing stuff in the kitchen or you're preparing dinner and you're talking to me. Like that we make it work. So imagine you're like, okay, let's sit down and do a podcast. We're probably not going to do it with me in the garage working on something while you're cooking. That would be kind of cool to just, if we really want to talk and record it and push it out, maybe that's the next wave for people who are doing stuff, right? Like yesterday, I was talking to you and Jamie Rodrigue when I was at the rink waiting for my son to get on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
This is, we have the technology to talk to each other whenever we want. We have the technology to record ourselves, push it out live, and have a conversation wherever we want. It's just then it becomes so invasive. Do we want to do that? Like, do I want to be at the rink before my son gets on the ice and doing a podcast? Do I really want to do that? Do I want that to become part of my dad life at the hockey rink? I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't know. I know for certain people, I like when you and I were doing spaces on Twitter/X,
Yep.
I made a point of operating in a way that when we were doing spaces, I was gonna be sitting in my living room while the family was buzzing around me. Now, I told the family, listen, I'm going to be in here and for an hour, I'm going to be doing a space with Chris. So we're going to be talking to whoever pops in. It's about this topic, whatever. So it wasn't, I was like, I'm unavailable to help you with this, that, or the other thing for this hour, but I'm not upstairs in the podcast room. And you do whatever you do, right? Like if you're, I don't know, if you're arguing, I'll just mute it. But you keep living your life, you keep doing what you're doing. This is part of, I'm doing this on purpose because it's part of my day. And you and I already give a few hours to this thing every Saturday morning. So then to suck a Sunday afternoon as well probably isn't fair to the family. So I'm here, right? I did that intentionally. Do I want to do that when I'm at the rink? Do I want to do that when I'm cooking dinner? That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole other thing. But it's just cool for you to bring this up because I was talking about it the other day and how all these people have just kind of fallen away because of life. We're still doing it. And yeah, my existence on Twitter is completely different than it was 2 years ago, 4 years ago, completely different. I'm rolling with people that they're doing all kinds of stuff and
Mm-hmm.
I'm collecting, I'm learning, but I'm not hearing about EDU podcasts these days. And I'm also not pushing it out either. Like
Yeah.
this morning I tweeted out, "Hey, Decoded podcast coming on. If you want to come in." You know, Cosmic liked the tweet. So maybe he'll pop in. Who knows what Cosmic is up to because
Mm-hmm.
he lives in Louisiana. So I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what's going on in Louisiana right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Rochelle's with us. Rochelle is blown away with Chris the No Beard.
There's a story. There's this. I know. Thanks for noticing. I appreciate that. Yeah. There's noticing. Before I address that, while you're chatting, I dropped into Chat GPT and put in not a stellar prompt, education podcasts in Ontario, Canada. So it comes up, number one, Voice Head Radio hits, right? And then it's funny, and then Hurry Slowly with Stephen Hurley. Um, don't know. Who knows? I didn't fact check it. I don't even know if that's a real one out there. But there's Hurley again. So he takes the top two spots. Then the third one's interesting. It says Queering Desi with Che Cheney and Pav Wander. Now, I did kind of look into that, and I maybe they were on there, but it's not their podcast. It's a different person that's the actual host. So that's one of those. It's it's the AI glitch. It's synthesizing something that ain't true. Then in the fourth spot, Class Struggles with Peter Cameron. We were just talking about Pete and Stephen Hurley again. So Hurley's just in this other project. I'm going to jump over the fifth position just for a second, and I'm going to go down to the sixth, and it's the On Education podcast, which I know of those folks. But in the fifth position is the Classroom Whisperer with Roland Chidiak.
The Classroom Whisperer?
Roland Chidiak, an educator based in Ontario, hosts the Classroom Whisperer, where he discusses various topics related to teaching and learning. So just one of the other many side. I didn't know you were doing all that other podcast stuff on the side. That's fantastic. And I definitely did not know about your podcast, The Classroom Whisperer. So congratulations on making the top 5. That's excellent.
Well, thank you.
I looked it up. I did look it up. I can't find it. So you have to start listing those YouTube links because I can't find them.
You can't find the Classroom Whisperer stuff?
I can't. It delimits it. So it says I can find a bunch of Roland Chidiak, but it says does not include Whisperer. So that's actually kind of a hard word to say.
That's cool. I didn't know. See, I love how generative AI, especially ChatGPT, scrapes that internet, eh? It just grabs whatever. Well, the Hurley stuff's accurate because we know it popped up recently. We know that that he's still kind of in that space. He's doing those things, but he's been in that space forever. Like Hurley has been doing audio and talking to people that way for a very long time.
He's like a land baron.
It's his thing.
He's a land baron in the podcast universe. He's got properties and people, paying him rent, and
that'd be hilarious. Podcast monopoly.
Yeah.
He's the old guy with the monocle
with the mustache.
The mustache.
Yeah. He looks like the Mr. Peanut, but in the Monopoly kind of thing. Yeah. He's got that going.
I don't. So these things, what we're talking about right now, it's and the fact that I want to shift, and I don't know why. I can't explain right now why.
Can I do my beard?
Do your beard thing, yeah.
As you formulate that. So Rochelle, one of the side hustles that I do is I like doing community theater. So back in August, I put my name in for a show called Shapes and Stanzas, and it's a 1-act play with a local theater company called the Very Useful Theater Company, and I got a role. So it was a two-hander, 2-person in it, and in it, the storyline is you get 3 scenes of these 2 characters, Ronald and Susan. So in grade 4, in their middle 30s, and then when they're in their late 60s into their 70s. So 3 different scenes. So I had to shave off the beard because I could kind of rock the scrubble if I'm, the 30, 40-year-old, and it definitely worked as the old man, but it doesn't really work as like a 4th grader. So just to be able to embody that a little bit, the beard had to come off. But I will tell you, it'll be back. It'll be back. Give me 2 weeks and I'll be far less shiny. So
that's funny. And Rochelle, you'll appreciate this, and then all our other listeners. This is the cool thing about Decoded Podcast. We know Rochelle's here listening.
And she's growing along with me. She noticed. I love that. Yeah, the beard thing. Yeah.
That's the cool thing about Decoded. And I tweeted that out. Like, you can jump in if you want. If you're here, you can jump in. And here we go. Look at this. Instant gratification. Some congrats to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was a lot of fun. Oh, the one part. So check this out, Rochelle. No, just because this is kind of this is actually why I dropped. The reason that I put my name in for the role is because it was one night only. One night, one show we got to do. One. It was paid. So part of this festival, it started on Thursday. So we were part of the gala night. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And they solicit, they had something like 500 submissions from 1-act playwrights, and they brought it down to like 9 shows or something like that. And then they just spread the shows out over 4 days. But one show only. So it's like I've never done anything like that. I felt highly competitive. It's like you're going right. It's like you're. That's kind of what it is, though. Like it's like performance competition because you get one shot to get it right. And I will tell you, we did not get it 100% right. I know, Chiz, you're asking me about this. It was a good night, but I will tell you, it was not a perfect run. So that's real. That's really good. Um, that's a really good meditation for me after this experience. But the singularity why I stepped into it was because we did a month of rehearsal and we got one shot to put it on in front of an audience, one shot in front of a paying audience. That's it. So I like that. It was a little bit of a pressure cooker, but it was really cool to do. So appreciate you throwing the kudos my way. Thanks.
So along those lines, as you and I are chatting day to day, it was funny because you're telling me about, so your show was on Thursday, and you know, you were checking in with me. You're like, yeah, got to go to work, got to come home. I love this. I got to have a hot shower, shave, and then go to rehearsal, then do the show. And it just made me laugh, like hot shower and shave um, after a full day of work. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just interesting. It's funny. It's cool. Um, so yeah, 2 weeks and you'll be back to your regular self with the beard, if that's what you want to do.
I'll go back.
Okay, he'll go back. Um, yeah, Rochelle says that's live theater, a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of the time that I saw you do live theater after 25 years of not having done it. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun watching you do your thing. That was a good show.
Dude, I
Lonely
can't tell
Planet.
you. Yeah, I can't tell you what a gift it was too to be able to see like people out in the audience like that. That was so cool because you didn't tell me that you and the guys were gonna do that. So that was masterful, masterful.
That was cool. Like it was still COVID times.
It was.
It was still COVID
I mean,
time.
we still are
Well,
COVID
I
times,
know.
but we were still deep in the like us like the feels of what does it mean for us to kind of come out and socialize. Like I think that's where we were landlocked there. Like, are we going to be in theaters? Are we going to?
Right.
We were good in grocery stores, but then are we good in entertainment places? I think was our next stage. Movie theaters, sporting events, right? Like these big arena type things. So
Yes. And okay, now that we're onto this, remind me. Okay, so we were still in COVID,
yep.
and but how did the show come about? Like they put it out there. Were we still we weren't required to wear masks indoors anymore? Is that correct? Like when they said we're doing a show and we're doing it it's you got 8 weeks to prepare and we're going to do 5 shows in these 2 weeks. Were we still wearing masks? Because I remember you telling me, did you rehearse with masks on and then you had rehearsals with no masks on? I don't remember like the ins and out. I
We had just shifted into some spaces being mask optional.
Okay. Okay. So
Recommended, but optional. But we were still firm in the if you're showing symptoms, if you have
uh
anything, yeah.
and I remember somebody, I don't want to dox this person, but when you were rehearsing, practicing, learning,
Yep.
somebody on the show staff
Yep.
got COVID, and
Yep.
you guys all had to step away for a little bit, or
Yep.
that person had to step away.
Yep.
Um,
We kept rehearsing. We kept
right,
rehearsing. Just stage manager stepped in for the lines, and that
right.
person, yeah,
That person was out.
that was the second time. The first time was they started. We all masked up because they were someone in their family had become quite sick. So it was the one off, but it wasn't the direct one.
Got it. So when I'll never forget. I don't remember the actual day, but I remember you telling me you were auditioning, and I thought, okay, if he gets this role, I got to be on it ASAP. I got to notify the guys, got to figure out who's going, how many tickets I
Mhm.
can get. So the minute you're like, yeah, I got the part, I'm like, okay, when are the shows again? You tell me. I messaged the guys, the book club for men. And I'm like, guys,
Hmm.
Club's in a show. Do you want to go? I'm going on this day. And it was pretty cool because my wife said, I told my wife, I'm like, I'm going to Aurora for this show. And she said, okay, if none of the guys want to go, like if nobody wants to go, we'll go. I'm like, awesome. So my wife was
Well, that's
all in.
sweet. I don't think
Yeah.
you told me that. That's cool.
Uh, she was like, we'll make it a date. Like we'll go to Aurora, we'll watch the show.
Hmm.
Because I was like, no offense or anything, Clough, but it's not like Princess of Wales Theater. There's going to be 8,000 people there.
Hmm.
So it was like, it was a lower risk for her. Um, but anyway, I'm like, yeah, some of the guys want to go. Actually, a lot of the guys wanted to go.
Hmm.
Um, got the tickets, and then yes, it was a weird space because I remember we met, you know, down the street from the theater for dinner, the 6 or 7 of us. So yeah, I took off my mask to eat. When we left, I wore a mask in the car when I drove one of the guys down with me, and then I wore a mask in the theater while the performance was happening. But it was my beard mask, so it was like we had gotten to the point where I was allowed to pick what I wanted to wear on my face.
Hmm.
Um, it's just weird times, man.
The that show. So in that, so the auditions were around late February 2021. Am I doing that right? So
2021?
was it last year, 2022? Was it in 2020? Yeah, it was in sorry. It was in sorry. It was 2022, February 2022. That's when right, because that was a year ago, like last spring. We're in 2023. Yeah. It wasn't 2020. 2020, we went 2020 through, it was crap. 2021, round to 22. Yeah, I guess it was in January. I'd have to look at the resume. I can't remember. I don't remember this, but it was like January 2022. The theater decided that they were going to mount shows again,
Mhm.
and they had already, I think, either scrubbed or scrapped a few because of just it wasn't they couldn't get the stuff together. So this was they decided to come back with two more shows on the season, and ours came out first, and then they had one more to close out the season. But I remember, like, there weren't a lot of people in the theater. Like, we were not, despite the fact we knew, and there was, communication from the community, like they were craving to be able to go out and do things. And like I said, people were just figuring out, what does it mean to be out in the world again? Like,
Mhm.
that's really, people were like, okay, it was that weird gray space of acceptance that this is something that we do have to live with. We do have
Right.
to live with. I think there are other mitigating circumstances that hospitals were starting to kind of ease off a little bit. Everyone's watching the world numbers. It was, like the global consciousness. Sorry, the global consciousness in some spaces was starting to shift to, we have to go out in the world.
Mhm.
Um, and so I don't. We didn't benefit immensely from that, but we always had people in the theater, and it was cool. I think the day you were there, the Sunday or the Saturday, whenever you were there, there was quite a few people there. And all around, it's funny, like, part of me, every single show that I do, I really, the time that what I sort of like, I'll do this a different way. The director, he's a great director. His name's Sergio. The audition was a cold read from the script, but he's done this before. He said, I want you to tell a story. You're going to tell a story. And he said, it's going to be a story. I want you to tell a story, as best as possible, a pandemic story. And so for my audition, I'd actually written, kind of, not, it wasn't close enough to a spoken word piece that I could use it purely, but I'd written a poem about how it felt. I do remember I had gone through a whole series of In September posts about, like, when we came out of 2020 and we were coming out of 2019, 2020, and then having to go back for the 2020-2021 school year. I put it all on the page about everything that could sort of, in September, what that's going to look like. So I had a few pieces in there that talked about my feelings leaving the school on March 13th, 2020, that Friday. And I ended up sort of building parts of those out into a story. And I told that story on stage. So that play, the play's a great play. And I mean, I can't even say that with, the proper genuineness because I was in it. But even as a piece, because the piece in itself, right, was like about New York City and the AIDS epidemic. And I am not trying to make one lighter over the other when we talk about COVID and we talk about AIDS, but there were some stunning parallels between how um, AIDS within the gay male community, kind of specifically in New York City at that time and frame, and how people were being treated, mistreated, and how certain things were also happening during our COVID treatment. Like it really was a painful and perfect play to put on. Like it was like a moment in time, right? Like a moment in time, like that confluence won't happen. Well, sorry, it may happen again. I'm just happy that it happened and I was standing at the crossroads because when I think about that play and being able to do it, it was a two-hander, like a full play and only two people. Like that was an intense play to do. So when I think about like the experiences, like like I was telling Rochelle, being able to do this one act, one night only, that one was like, so part of my mind is like, man, I wish we had audiences. But then I go back and I think this was the one though. This was the conversation we put on stage that helped people come out. This was the one that was there waiting for them. They were able to come to the theater and maybe just enjoy it as an artsy fartsy piece. It's just a story. But if a few people were like, wow, this is also about an individual trying to struggle to come out into the world, to live their life, to try and move on, right? Because my character being that one that was just locked in the map store, like just not being able to leave the map store. I really like that play occurred there and I was able to be a part of it. And that's like that's so cool, that opportunity. So cool that I had that opportunity. So that's how it came about. You had asked how it kind of came about, but I will tell you, when I was on stage telling my story, like actually saying my poetry about my moment coming out, man, like that, to be able to do, even though that one kind of spoken word story, prose poetry maybe that I did, it was just in front of three people. I'm so happy I'm stoked that I was able to play the role. Love that you guys came out, but the fact that I could do that one poem out loud as an audition piece and it connected, that's awesome. Like that's awesome. That means that really tells me that I was centered well in my thoughts and I was able to capture it in words because I cut and paste from my own stuff and built a story out of it. And all I had to do was put connectors. I didn't actually have to change what my decisions were in the pieces. So that also, I dig it.
That's the best content when you can cut and paste from your own work.
Yeah.
You got me thinking. A lot of a lot of creative that I've kind of been thinking about lately is coming from things that I've experienced and done. And it's kind of just recirculating. It's kind of cool. It's neat.
Hmm.
I remember that now that you had to do that bit.
Hmm.
And I remember you sharing your, the idea of what you were going to present for your, and I was like, wow, it makes sense. It fits. It's cool. That was a really good show. I can't believe because I wondered, I'm like, how are they going to do a show with two people, the same two people? Like, how are they going to make it interesting? And I loved the props in the show. I liked the idea, the concept. It was cool. It was cool. That's good. I'm glad that you did that. I'm glad. What a neat test for yourself. 25 years later,
Yeah.
you know. And you're in that mindset that I'm gonna take this on. And does it kill me or does it make me stronger? Which one's it gonna be? Maybe a little bit of both, who knows, right? But
And we had Karen. I mean, when I saw it, like I was a last minute add in because at home, Karen and I were talking about this. Like, what will be the implications of this? So we still had the conversations around like what does safe emergence look like? So we were there at home having so many layers, as you would say, having similar conversations that were happening everywhere in our community that were also a very clear, similar conversation in the play, which then translates to conversations that's happening with people in the audience. Like it was like you can't go any more meta on a moment, right? And then, like I said, I just still stoked that I was able to sort of stand at that intersection and say, okay, let's do it. Let's see where this goes. And for the director, I mean, to audition and have the director and stage manager kind of trust in, okay, let's see what Clef brings to the role. So
mhm. Ah, those friggin' days. Another cool connection. We're talking about this now, and this is what I've been talking about this last week. I've been talking a lot about COVID because it was COVID that brought me to the work that I'm doing today.
yep. Who'd have
Man,
thought? Who'd have thought that we would have okay, so this okay, not to give away too much, but this was our on-ramp. This was our on-ramp. This idea of having how your capacity to sort of dig into your experiences does it, is there a threshold that you cross over when you're able to do it better? And we were sort of talking about certain ages within, our friend group and people we know, are individuals that are younger able to access this exact same moment like you are right now, like I am right now, thinking about these things, to sort of like mine out the experience in a way like you're not looking to relive it, you're looking just to understand it at a different, deeper level. And I went kind of like cynical on it. You saying, do you think a 30-year-old could have a sort of like a depth of experience and understanding and ability to sort of parse out the way that let's say the way that we reflect here, let's say. I'm like, nope, I don't think so. But I think what we just did is a great example of that. And the fact that you are, looking at the re-engagement role that you've taken on as a like it the cat like to be able to sort of I told you the third level would be to notice the catalyst. And there are individuals that have that vision. There are opportunizers that definitely came out of COVID because they saw I can switch this into something. They knew forward what it would lead to. I don't know. I didn't think I observed that in you. I think you saw the possibility to do that role and you're like, I think I want to do it. But I don't remember you saying when we were doing COVID stuff, I need to get a job that doesn't keep me in the classroom, right? Like you weren't leveraging that. You were just savvy enough that when it was presented, you're like, that's the thing that I didn't know that I wanted, but that is what I want to take it to. And you were hesitant too, right? Like it wasn't, if I'm digging back to the process, you weren't like, absolutely, I'm going for this. Like you took your time. I think you took a lot of time and you finally put your name and you made it happen. Right. But yeah, definitely. I don't remember you ever saying, you know, I need to be away from like actually outside of a school building. Right. So,
you're yeah, you're 100% right. You're 100% right in that the one thing I was thinking really strongly about was in the middle of COVID, I'm like, yeah, I won't be putting my name in the hat to become a VP anytime soon. Watching how was happening with administrators at the time, and
it
uh,
was terrible. It was
it
terrible.
was, and
Yeah.
I remember people were being promoted like in the middle of COVID. I remember, hey, you're getting a new vice principal at your school. Here's this person; they are now your vice principal, and it was like, I'll never forget watching him navigate his new role and one of his duties was um, when there'd be a confirmed case of COVID in your class or whatever. I remember at my school, they would politely tell us you need to go for a walk in the school or go to the library or something, while the VP would come in and like clean the desks and do this and do that with a mask on his face. And it was like, I remember saying to him one morning, I'm like, what the hell is going on? And he's just looking at me. I was having a moment because I remember telling you when I would polo you in the car and I'd get to work, I remember saying to you, bro, I'm at work now. I need to gather my thoughts, get out of the car, and go into the building, or I'm not going to work today.
We were not putting up interesting content during that, I don't think. I think many of ours was just like, okay, here we go. Okay, I went for a walk this morning. Like I don't know if we were breathing the same way that we are now in our polos and our communications. So I remember those. I remember that was actually, well, I think that was about at the halfway mark. That was somewhere around the halfway mark that something it sort of shifted from, okay, I can do digital design, I got, and then it went to, yeah, you know what? I'm not getting a return off this in the same way that I did before. Something's changed.
I yeah, I just so I that was my headspace at the time. I was in the middle of, oh God, I got to go back to work today. And for me, I got to tell you, for the worst thing for me was wearing the mask. So just, for our thousands of listeners, I'm not an anti-masker. I just didn't I used to laugh and think, you know, if I knew how uncomfortable this mask was going to be on my face every day, I would have never wanted to become a doctor because I couldn't be a surgeon because all they do is wear masks all the time. Imagine going to medical school and then they're like, okay, you're going into surgery for 8 hours, put this thing on your face, you put it on, you're like, oh shit, I don't like this. I can't breathe. I'm sweating. Imagine. And
And
you,
that's an authentic, it's an authentic physiological, like you're suddenly surprised, like
yeah.
everything, it's all a good idea. It's all a good, this is not a good idea. Like you just, yeah, no, I got that. Yeah, yeah,
And so then I'm going into a classroom and I'm putting this thing on my face for an entire day,
yeah,
every day.
yeah,
I was like, I friggin' hate this. And then,
yep.
so for me, yeah, so I know I'm jumbling things, but now my head's back in that space. So this was the space I was in. We have a pandemic. We don't know really how it's playing out. We don't really know COVID the way we know it better now. Everybody's pissing on us because they're like, your teachers, get back in the classroom. And we're like, yeah, we're teachers. We don't want to die, but we're teachers. You're not allowed to do this and you're not allowed to do that. And the kids, we instantly, my class instantly went from, the 2000s back to the 60s. Stay in
Hmm.
your seat. Do not go near another student. We are not collaborating the way we did. Nobody come, can't have two people sitting beside me the way we used to. Oh shoot, you dropped your pencil. Nobody touch it except for the person who dropped it. Like
I know. That's
we
awesome.
we
I
went
remember that.
from oh, we're coming in from recess, line up so I can squeeze some hand sanitizer on your hands before you come in.
Damn.
So I went from sitting on the carpet with like kids all around me looking at 3D printed materials and how they connected to mathematics and science
Gather
to,
around, kids.
yeah, to, why are you standing right next to your buddy? Sit
Yeah, yeah.
down
Go back
and
up.
get back to work and put your mask on, for goodness sake. Right? Like, and I'm in my car and I'm like, I don't want to get out of the car and go into the building and start my day. So all this is happening, and this cool dude, becomes a VP. And he comes in, and I remember he was in my classroom. We were talking about something. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? And he's like 30 something, right? So here you have me, middle age, and you got this young dude who's always wanted to be an administrator. Here he is in the middle of a pandemic. He's an administrator now. I'm like, why are you doing this? And we talking about, I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do your job. I don't want to do your job. And then it was like, time passes, then I see the posting for re-engagement. I'm like, okay, okay, I feel like there's something good that could come out of this. And you're right, I wasn't seeking, my only thought was, okay, do I want to become an administrator? I wasn't seeking like, hey, Chris, I'm going to do everything I can to get out of my classroom. you know? It was like I saw it and I was, like, scared because I was like, "That oh my god, I wanna apply to that job. Oh my god, it's gonna take me out of my classroom." So there's a lot floating.
I'd agree. I'd agree. I would agree what I was observing on the other side. I think I was trying to pump up the excitement part, but I would agree. Playing back the tape, I think I was observing the fear side, the
There
fear
was
side.
yeah, the unknown, even though there were some knowns, there was an unknown, like, will I be successful? And I don't mean that like wake up every day and be happy. I mean like will I be make a positive difference? Will I like my job, the new job? My wife, I don't know if I ever said this on the podcast, she was worried about my mental health. Like, how will you maintain mental health when you're working with kids on the periphery that like you're not going to be dealing with happy-go-lucky people. You're going to be dealing with people who want nothing to do with you. They don't want to go to school, and your whole job is to try to like bring them back to school. So she was worried about how are you going to maintain your mental health? How's that going to impact the family? So there were questions around that. But I remember saying to her, "You know what? I'll put together a plan for my mental health, but I really want to give this a go because I think if I don't, I'm going to regret it." And here we are today where it's like, I love my job. And I try not to be that guy that's walking around telling everybody how much he loves his job because then you're annoying. You're pissing people off who are stressed with other things. They don't want to hear about how much you love your job. I recognize that, so I don't walk around like that. But I do take my job seriously and I feel alive again with my work. I feel alive. And I like that. I like feeling alive if I have to work every day in my life. So, and my mental health, knock on wood, is pretty decent. I've actually, it's a main focus for me now with everything all the time. So, there's been a lot of good that's come from it. A lot of good. Anyway, Gary's here. Gary, hello. Gary, I hope your ears were burning yesterday because I was talking about you, Gary. Um, And in
Hello,
the on
Gary.
hello, Gary. In the on-ramp, I was talking to Chris about your school, and I'm not going to mention what I said about your school because I don't think it's for me to say for the thousands of listeners, and the fact that this is recorded and will be on Facebook, YouTube until YouTube
I
close.
like to think of, yeah, I like to think of the whole for the thousand forevers.
Yes, the thousand forevers,
Yeah,
and our
because that's
kids.
yeah.
So my kids might be listening to this one day and be like, "What did Dad say about Gary's school?" And then they're like, "Who's Gary?" Right? Well, here, Will and Ben, check this out. I'm putting Gary's full name on the screen. So Gary
Oh,
says,
I love it.
"Yeah." So now
That's
they're gonna
awesome.
figure this
You
out,
just
right?
you totally took the Easter egg away, right? But that's okay.
I'm trying to. I'm. We got to give them some hints and tips. This isn't friggin' um, what's that movie with Harrison Ford?
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, it's not Indiana Jones, for goodness
Fair
sake.
enough. Fair enough.
But Gary says he really admires the skill, creativity, vulnerability to take on a role and share it with an audience. Yeah, if you knew Clough better, you'd know that he's all about that these days. Gary says he thinks personal experience and disposition over age is the most valuable catalyst for insight. Gary, I agree, but I don't seem to be meeting 30-year-olds that have valuable, like, they don't seem to have or present to me an insight that is like, that's doing anything for me. If that In fact, when I'm staring at a 30-year-old talking to me like they know everything, they can tell by the look on my face that I'm unimpressed. And they're probably thinking, who's this old dude who's trying to like kind of help me navigate the world? And my response is, kid, I'm not trying to help you do anything. You don't have to listen to anything I'm saying. I need to say some things and I'm going to step out. I'm loving the space I'm in too. That I'm not I can give advice and I can provide perspective from my experience and position. And if you don't want to do anything with it, that is absolutely 100% fine. I'm not that control guy that's like, you must. I'm not. I don't want to be. And when people do that to me, I literally laugh and walk away and most likely won't do anything that they just told me to do. That's me and my immaturity, but I'm good with it. Gary also says,
That's
"Aim,"
your experience and disposition, though.
but it's
And I
also
think,
there's something about it that's immature to me. I know that. But I'm
yeah,
okay.
sure, but it's maybe immature. Sorry, I gotta jump on this. So, because I want to go back to you saying you're not the guy that goes around saying that that you like your work. In the last year, I have become that guy because and it's funny, I'm doing it. So maybe, I don't know. Is Rochelle still here? But I want to
Is
bounce
Rochelle
this.
still here? That's
Yeah,
funny.
I'm just kind of like, because I can't see who's in the room.
I
So,
know, I
but
know.
here's the thing that what experience and disposition has led me to. And this is you and I in the on ramp, I talked about, I think there's these stages. So you go through this craving for experience stage, and then you land from there through life, age, disposition. And now, as I crave experience, I'm going to observe, I'm going to think about those experiences. It's almost like at some point in your life, something genetic kicks in and you start to experience nostalgia. So those two things have to be crap. You go from just craving experience to another thing, to experience and reflective practice. And then the third stage, which I feel like I've landed at, is I'm still craving, but this takes up the same bubble, if that makes sense. So fewer experiences, equal amount of reflective practice. But the other third in this is presence, as in, as I'm having the experience, I'm reflecting in real time and staying present as to, is this actually feeding me? And that's the cycle that I'm in now. And because I'm in that cycle, and this is why I say I haven't met 30-year-olds that are able to do this, because they haven't made it to that third tier yet, where they're effectively observing their actions, where they're right there in the ownership moment and giving good play-by-play calls to what they're doing. This doesn't always work for me. I'm not saying it always works, but I'm saying I find I'm more in that zone of staying in there as what I'm currently doing right now. Am I on track? Of course, there's a bunch of other stuff that I could be falling off the track. I get that. But the stuff that I'm actually actively, or sometimes not even myself, putting in front of me, I am so much better at knowing whether or not that's authentic or not. And I think that's what comes at this. So 52, it's taken me 52 years to get to that space, not just to be able to do it naturally, but to be able to see, this is me doing what I'm talking about, to notice as I'm doing it, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, and this is, if I keep doing this, this is how it's going to move me forward. That's that third tier. So back to that, talking about the job, now I'm 52 years old and I actively talk about how much I like my job. Yesterday, as I'm leaving, I'm walking out of my door, there's a caretaker coming by, and he's like, good thing you get to escape for the weekend. I'm like, bro, it is an escape. I said, I love this work. You should have seen the look on his face. I said, I love this work. And it just fell out of my mouth. This was not the dude was open. I was sort of shutting down the computer. We have to do our no-show reports in class, like the kids that haven't shown up yet. Had to send a bunch of emails. I clicked boom, 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 boom. And then I had an appointment I had to get to. As I get out the door, he's standing right there. He's like, oh, thanks, man. Because he was coming in to grab the garbages and the recycle. He's like, good for you. You get to escape this place. He didn't say it negatively. It was so as a matter of fact. It's like the thing you say. It's like talking about the weather. But my brain wanted to comment back, no, this isn't like the weather. I'm actually really good with this job, and I'm actually really happy. You know my plan that got me to this place. The school is close to my house. I have the option to walk to school. I'm going to be connected with my kids because they're going to be coming to this school. And I've said to you, this is the school that has led me to talk about, okay, I'm in my 10-year zone coming into retirement. That's not me slowing down at all. I'm just aware that it's taken me this long to get to a spot where I really feel like everything that I think I need from my work is right there. And you know what? I'm happy to tell people that, because I have found in both this place, even being here for a week, and I was messaging you and J-Rod in the WhatsApp saying there's a lot of people that for some reason they will just tell me stuff that is just and I'm like, you're not in my affinity circle, but and then that person walks out and another person walks in and then they say, They say complaints about that person that just walked out and they've just met me. So there's no shortage of people kind of talking about things that they find problematic about the work that they do. There really isn't. But I am now shifting into the guy that the overall job, I can find points that are dislikable, but I'm going to choose to share the shit that, like, I'm designing a better way for me to be at work. I'm actively designing my work experience. And I gotta hope that that rings off something in your mental wellness bells, because that was something that many people in general don't necessarily have access to. It definitely was something was like, yoink, pulled away from us during COVID teaching. Um, and I would say it takes constant work. It just takes constant work. Like there's no perpetual motion on that wheel. And what I like about that is that I feel like I am putting proportional effort into it. I'm not getting burnt out. I found my pace. I found my good pace, right? So I know my pace. I dig it.
It certainly does take work. When you said it certainly takes work yesterday, my son and I went somewhere, and before I got out of the car, I reached into the glove box where I've got my tools papers. And my son's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I just need to review something before I get out of the car."
Oh, you still have the Stutz handouts, eh?
I have, well, I have two sets. That's why I was just looking in the computer room here for the first one. Oh, here they are. Okay, I've got them in here, and then I've got these in the car, and because as you know, I work out of my car, so
Yeah.
um, I was looking, and my son's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I need to just review something," and it was active love, because I was going to
Mm.
be spending time with people that I didn't really want to be hanging with. I didn't particularly want to be social with. And I'm
Yep.
like, and I love my visualization of active love. Like I close my eyes and I I visualize myself as a Care Bear. So I have the Care Bear body with my head and beard on it and just firing love out of my chest. That's what I do. And it brings a smile to my face. So there's some humor. And then I go and I love people that I don't want to love, generally speaking. So it but it's dumb, but it helps. It makes I'm mentally well. I feel mentally healthy because I do these things every day, all day.
Yep.
Because I don't want to walk around sad all the time. I don't
Yep.
want to feel like I did in COVID. And so I'm trying. I'm trying. Anyway, a couple of comments here. So Gary says, age helps facilitate experience, but insight comes earlier for some.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and then I'm being selfish here. Gary says, I'm the perfect person for the role, and they're blessed to have me. Thank you, Gary. Gary, will you do my TPA when it comes up? Thanks, Gary. Rochelle agrees with Gary, which is rare. So these two brainiacs agree with each other. We're going to take that. Gary says he thinks humility feeds a desire to learn from others, which he thinks correlates with age. Sorry, that's supposed to say age. Maybe it is that age reduces the feeling that we need to prove our competence.
I think a big part, if I'll parallel it with my runner's journey, and I think about um kind of prepping for Tough Mudder, and like this year has been like I've dug into some like running transformation, like bringing myself back to running again, which is something I did back in the past. So developed a plan, have done my best to stick to the plan, but allowed life to kind of influence it because it has to be in conversation with it. I can't hide away to train. It doesn't happen, right? But I also have to have a goal. A goal is good too, right? So I set this goal, have two runs coming up, one next weekend, and then a longer one in November. I've mentioned to you about going robot mode. And robot mode for me when I run means that it's not about shutting myself off from the experience. It's about compartmentalizing it in such a way that I reduce it's kind of like I'm reducing the variables that could happen during my running training by creating routines that keep me on track. So same route, same clothes, same prep, like as much same as I can do. Less so because I like same, but because of something I experienced about 2 to 3 weeks ago was as I was running in my head, I knew exactly how I was going to feel at a certain point in my run. And I've now developed that for both my 5 to 6 Ks as I have for the sort of like the 10 to 13 Ks. And I'm just starting to develop it for my sort of 14 to sort of 16 range Ks. And I will tell you that that's a type of, I don't even know what to call it, but I'll say muscle memory, athletic wisdom that, my God, when it hit, because my brain, and you were in the middle of one of those one time where I kind of reached out. You were sort of experiencing it slightly asynchronously, but I was at that run where I was ready to tap out, and randomly my watch starts like brr, 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 and you were messaging in for something. And that was just because I was trending, I was sort of getting distracted by fatigue and allowing my perseverance on, am I fatigued? Oh, is this thing happening? Like I started to ask for symptoms that weren't actually symptoms that normally were attributed to my runs. But for some reason, just the perseveration on it, the thinking about it, it didn't create the symptoms, but it definitely created fatigue and distraction. And I will say for me, if I decide to go for a 13 or 14K run, there's no extra energy. I don't have my head on a swivel and, like I'm not run, Forest, run. Like it's taking everything for me to stay focused on that run. So that distraction is wasted energy. In the same way, I drag my feet 50 times by accident, that's wasted energy. If I hit a pebble and take a step sideways, that's wasted energy. So I'm not at a place where I can waste any energy in order to get to the outcome. But I will tell you, knowing that and knowing where, like, what my body should be responding after 5K, 7K, I love that. I told you a few podcasts ago about picking up Doug, going to help Doug. There was no question in my mind after spending since January exercising and being more mindful with my health that I could pick that friggin' guy up off the ground that was lying in the middle of the road and get him back to his car. There was no question. It was it was basically it was I was ready and it was all go. There was no space there. I got up, I got him off the road. And then relating to afterwards, I only thought afterwards, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Like, don't worry, buddy. As I'm telling him, he's like, I'm kind of heavy. I'm like, I got you. I'm going to lift you. Dude was probably, 180, 190, but I deadlifted him up, got him standing. I'm like, so it's this fun, like that type of awareness is very new to me, but it also is that wisdom that being able to be in a process and be able to account and count on outcomes is really cool. I like that the running practice has given me that. Yeah. It's a weird little bit of confidence that I don't think I had tapped into prior to this year. I'm sorry, it's the wrong word. Because confidence, I think without wisdom, you tap into ego. Like it's too much ego and you're insufferable. Like people just like, guy's an ass. He's an ass all the time. But you couple confidence with wisdom and there's a really sweet bit of reliability that comes out of that. I think to others, you project it to others, but there's a real gift when you can actually be reliable for yourself. Like, holy crap. That's awesome. That's awesome. I like that.
You hit a lot of really cool stuff there, and you ended it nicely, right? Um, to me, for me, and it connects perfectly with something Gary said. Gary said insecurity feeds arrogance and ego,
Mhm.
but so does this newfound wisdom that is not tempered or
Mm.
properly kind of adjusted. You become that guy that
Yeah.
nobody wants to hang with. Nobody, they're like, oh, here comes Clough. He started running. He thinks he's the bomb. Where you've started running and you're learning about yourself and you're milking that entire process and the good and the bad and the robot to get better with
Mhm.
everything you do. It reminds me, and I know you'll remember years ago when I decided I wanted to run. I was like a robot. I remember, I think I remember telling you the physical feelings I would get and be like, I feel like garbage, but if I'm going to die on the side of the road, I'm going to die because I'm doing something good.
Mhm.
Right? Because I was taking this experience and I was doing what I could to build me better, right? Not like I need to be able to run. No, it was never really about running. It was more about me and growth. And then, I remember my proudest moment as a runner because I don't run anymore. I ran 6 straight kilometers when I was on vacation at the beach. And you know how I feel about the beach. And anybody who
Mhm.
listens to our thousands of listeners who come every week know my love for the beach and the beach experience and the family experience. I ran 6K one morning at Sauble Beach. I didn't feel like death. My body wasn't falling apart. And it was a huge accomplishment for me as a human. So when I know how you roll and I know that robot state, sometimes for me, when you talk robot, that's how I work out in the morning. If I wake up and I think I'm not getting on the treadmill, I've told
Yeah,
you this, I
well
have a
said.
routine. If I think I am screwed, and on the mornings that I don't get on the treadmill, it's because I'm thinking, "Oh, I'll just got 5 more minutes of sleep. Oh, I'll just walk more later. Oh, I'll just. I gotta get up and I gotta follow the routine A, B, C, D, and then E, I'm on the machine, and that's it. I'm on the machine for the time that I'm putting in. Maybe there's another way. Maybe there's a more evolved way. I don't know it. But for me, it's robot. And for me, it's robot for a lot of things to build fluency, to build capacity. Thinking is good at certain points, but I know about me, there are some things that if I think I know I will think my way out of it. And so that's weak. And I don't mean weak in like a toxic masculinity. I just mean weak like I'm not going to get stuff done and then I'm going to feel poorly about it after. So with all that awareness and understanding, I'm like, yeah, robot it is because that's what's going to get the job done. And in moments like this, you and I and Gary and Rochelle and the thousands of other people, they can get the cerebral part. This is the non-robot part. You and I talking about what comes from the robot, right?
Mhm.
What can come from the robot. This is so it's happening. We are evolving. We are not just robots. Um, but I wrote something down when you're talking about Doug. You know how David Goggins says who's going to carry the boats? Well, now
Yeah.
the clough is who's going to lift the Dougs.
Who's gonna lift the Dugs? Yeah.
So now we got to get people yelling in memes as they run, who's going to lift the Dougs? Or when they're lifting their weights, who's going to
Yeah.
lift the Dougs, right?
That's
Um,
awesome.
it is awesome. There we go. We're talking about Goggins. Now we're going to start talking about Clough. So funny story. I think it's funny, and Rochelle's here, so it's perfect because it's fitting. So, got an email this morning from the program head at the school that I'm connected to, the adult alternative learning, which is hilarious because he didn't mean to send out the email. He meant to delay it until Sunday night, but he didn't do it right, and it came out at like 7 in the morning on a Saturday. And he's talking about he realizes it's time for him to get a new picture on his badge, and because all the teachers at alt ed don't belong to the alt ed school. They all belong to another high school in the system. So he's like, okay, on this morning, me and so are going to this high school to get our photos taken. Then we're going to get to work and start our day. And so he's reminding all the teachers, if you need a new badge, you need a new picture, you have to go to your high school that you're in the system for. And then the last paragraph is Roland, I don't know where you go to get your new picture. And so the funny thing is, I actually in the HR system, I belong to the same school Rochelle works at. And it's a pain in my rear end. The whole thing is a pain in my rear end. So I'm like, I wrote back and I'm like, I don't think the school I belong to wants me there for us. I mean, I could see it now walking in on picture day. I'm like, I'm here. Just the whole experience would be hilarious. The main office would be like, who are you and why are you in our building at, 8 in the morning on a Thursday? That's the first layer. The next layer is when I walk up to the photographer. What happens is when you sit down, they always ask for your name because they have a list of staff. Oh, are who are you? I'm on staff. What's your name? Roland. You're not on my list. I know you're not on your list, but HR says I belong here. Like the whole thing would be friggin' hilarious. So I write back to the guy who sent the email. I'm like, yeah, I could get my picture there, but they don't even want me there. So I can't get my picture there, right? And he's like, just come to Cambridge. I'll take your picture and we'll tape it onto your badge or whatever. But I just want to share that because Rochelle knows. Rochelle knows about your school doesn't want me there. Like your principal doesn't want me in her face. She doesn't. I'm not on her staff. She already has a staff. She has things she's dealing with. She doesn't need to be dealing with me. And this came up today's Saturday. I had a meeting with
Mhm.
my principal on Thursday morning. And again, we joked about it. We joked about it because she knows there's a part of it that really bothers me that HR is doing this to me. And it comes up all the time. She's like, Roland, I know you don't like it, but it happens to all of us. And she's like, I'm not even a principal at this school. I'm in the system. I'm a principal at such and such school. I'm like, I get it. I get it. I just I said now I need to use my wand with um the bad spells sometimes towards HR to let them know I'm still here and I don't belong to that school. I think it also rubs me the wrong way because I worked at that school as a classroom teacher before, and I did experience some trauma there. So
Mm.
let's like, as you would say, I would say there are layers, the universe and the layers, right? Rochelle, picture day, September 28th, drop by.
That's awesome.
I so badly want to walk in and have my phone, like I want to vlog it so that I can
Mhm.
record all the people saying, "Who are you and why are you here?" And then send it to HR and be like, "Look, they don't want me there. You keep telling me I belong there for whatever you're I just want to keep sticking it to HR. They don't want me there. The principal thinks I'm an intruder for God's sake. Where do I get my picture taken? I still don't have my 20-year certificate of service. I visited a high school this week and I visited one of the guidance counselors. I sit down to talk to the guidance counselor. I look to my right and on his bulletin board is his 20-year certificate. I said, "Oh, bro, that's awesome." He goes, "Yeah, man, 20 years." He goes, "How long you been in?" I said, "I've been in longer." And they're one of those floating around the system for me. He goes, "What do you mean it's floating around the system?" I said, "It was sent to the school that I'm assigned to by HR and I don't know where it is now because I don't work there. I don't even have my certificate."
I remember I got my 5 year at some point. I don't even know. I got a card. I remember that. I don't know what the other layers are. Maybe I don't know if mine's en route. That's okay. That's okay.
Anyway, so there's the picture story, there's the HR. It's gonna come up all the time, man. It's funny, but it's not funny. It's good, it's not good. Whatever,
Mhm.
whatever. I still get to do my job, which I like to do my job, but that poor principal, she wants nothing. Who needs 10 more people on their staff that aren't really on their staff? Who needs that?
Yeah, that part is true. The extra bodies, like any extra bodies, even digital listy extra bodies, it is true because you're just increasing accountability without availability. It's like someone else I have to kind of have around. So
Like then I'm loving my newest iteration is is that like the third place I can hang out at? Like if I need to go somewhere and I can't go to one of the Bosco sites, can I just go to that school and go in
Yeah.
and say, can I just sit in the library and work? I need to do some admin stuff. I want to be in a building. Because this, I guarantee you this, Rochelle. I don't know what is referring to. So give us more information because I'm ranting now. But imagine I go in and I do that. I go
Mhm.
in and I say, I'm Roland. The system says I belong here. Can I sit down somewhere and work? Staff room, even, whatever, right?
Mhm.
Well, who says you belong here? HR. Then somebody calls HR because God forbid they take my word. And then HR is like, no, he doesn't belong there. For our convenience in the system, it says he's there, but really he's not there. And it's like, oh my goodness, like you're not even going by what you say you're going by. Like it's just, I just feel like exposing it. I just need to expose it because it's cathartic for me to expose it because it's
Mhm.
kind of ridiculous. It goes against the way I operate as a professional. It goes against the way I operate as a professional. I feel like somebody's not doing their job or
Yeah.
somebody's not there is no extreme ownership somewhere along the way. Nobody's owning anything to
Mhm.
do with me and my work. Gary says he's never received a years of certificate. What does that say about me? LOL. Gary,
Nice.
the board has never recognized you for how many years you've been with them? They do
There's
like
some but there's
five,
something
10.
cool about ghost mode. There is something cool about ghost
Gary,
mode. Yeah.
that's awesome. Gary, but you still get your paycheck, right? Because that would be horrible if that didn't come. Gary, how many years have you been with the system? Please inform us. I won't post it if you don't want me to, but you've been around a while, Gary. You're not a spring chicken here with our board. But anyway, hey, well, at least, okay, so poor Gary's never gotten a certificate. So on that note, I'll say, Gary, I've gotten a couple, but the 20-year one, I would have liked that one. But it's okay, it's floating somewhere. It's in somebody's recycle bin, I'm sure. Not at Rochelle's school because they would never do that, but it's somewhere. It's floating around somewhere. Nobody cares to get it to me.
Mhm.
Um, Here's another good board office story, and then I'm going to stop talking. So when I meet with my principal, it appears now that when we meet in a conference room that's on the first floor of our education center, and it's in the SO wing. So all the superintendents and the director, it's their conference room. But my principal, her office is on that floor, even though she's not
Mhm.
a superintendent. So she always books that room because it's literally like 2 seconds from her office. And I've complained a couple of times about having to go there and in that space. So the other day when we were looking at a time to meet, she's like, "Can I book this room? Is that okay with you?" And it was nice of her to acknowledge that she's like, "I know it's not comfortable for you because this is the process. I get to the Catholic Education Center, and since I don't belong to the third floor anymore, I my fob doesn't work, so I need to buzz in. So I get there, I buzz in, and when the lady at the front desk is not on the phone or dealing with somebody in front of her, she'll look at the monitor and be like, "Oh, it's she knows who I am." So that's the first layer. Like my thing won't work. I buzz in, I wait patiently. They open the door. I say good morning to her, and then I go and I sit on a bench that's in the hallway close to that SO wing door because my fob doesn't work, so I can't get in there. So I either wait for my principal to come and let me in because I text her and I'm like, I'm here, I'm just sitting outside the door. Or, which is weird, I have to wait for senior administration to come in or out the door or someone there. And they're high flyers, they're bigwigs. So it's like, Chidiac, what are you doing coming into our space? They don't say that, but when that door
They get
opens,
the
I
look.
run in
They
for the
get the
door,
look.
right?
Yeah.
So Thursday, I got there at the perfect time. Somebody was coming out of a space across the hall and they were going into the SO area, and I started running, and they look back and they see me. And I'm like, "Good morning." They say, "Good morning," and then they open the door. And as the door's closing, I get in, and she looks back, and you can tell she's like, "Who are you, and why are you coming into this space?" And I just give her one of these. I'm like, "It's okay." I kind of flash the badge and then hang a quick right into the conference room, and hope to God I don't need to explain anything to this person. She left
Exactly.
she left me alone. She's like, "I don't care who you are, but it is kind of weird that you're coming into this space and you're not a superintendent." So just more layers of like, do you think I want to go and spend time at the Catholic Education Center? I don't feel welcome, and I know I'm an adult and I'm middle aged. I don't feel welcome. I don't want to be there. Okay. But hey, my boss is there. And then my boss, this is the best. My boss walks into the meeting. She's not wearing any shoes. And I had just seen her 20 minutes earlier at Bosco and she was wearing her shoes. I'm like, "Oh, make yourself at home." She's like, "My ankle's bothering me." That's how close her office is to this conference room, which is hilarious because she feels at home. I'm sweating bullets like I'm 007 breaking into, Russia's CIA headquarters or something. And
That would be a good mix of Russia and CIA headquarters, but I get the flow. Yeah, I get that would be pretty. That would be pretty technical, but I got you.
I'm sweating bullets trying to
Yeah, yeah,
break into this building, and she's not wearing shoes.
yeah,
Just awesome. But these are all stories I can tell you because of the chaos, right?
yeah.
I got these great stories. So Gary's been with the system for 23 years. You don't have one certificate, Gary. Maybe my mission is to
I'm just.
break into
I'm.
Rochelle's
I'm going.
school.
Wait a sec. I'm going to OCT right now. I'm gonna see
Okay.
if Gary's actually. Have we actually been talking to Gary? Is this
Oh,
is this Gary?
is this Gary? I don't
That would be
know.
awesome.
He
That would be
says he
awesome.
started September 2000.
All right, good stuff.
So I got to break into Rochelle's school. I
Mm-hmm.
gotta get Gary a certificate of some
Mm-hmm.
sort, which
Yep.
then that means, Gary, I'm probably gonna come to your school and come up to your classroom and say hello. Okay. And so a couple of layers here. So Voice Ed Radio, Stephen Hurley, welcome. Just dropping by to say congrats on season 7.
Nice.
You're
Nice.
welcome for our commitment to this
We
space.
it might be Hurley.
No,
It
it's
might
Hurley.
be. How do we know? Does Hurley get up this early on a Saturday?
Hurley, I guarantee you he's up at the 5 a.m., bro.
That dude, I
Guaranteed.
think I think he's got robot mode locked. He's got the things the minutia that need to be mitigated. Here's a good alliteration. That he's a master of mitigating the minutia
And he's
of
also a
that.
baron. Bro's
He's
been
up
up
since
since
four.
4 a.m.
Yeah, but it's like me. That's the old man bladder. That's old man bladder. I was too. I got up at 3. I got up at 4, and finally, I'm like, I'm up at 5. Here we go. Here we go. And then I still have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, how does that even work?
That's
Right?
awesome. So
Yeah, I could.
we think it's Hurley or his
Yeah,
robot. Okay, it's one
yeah.
or the other. Um,
I
Gary,
like that. There's a kid's book. Someone's got to put that out.
what? What?
Hurley and his robot.
Hurley and
Mr.
his robot.
Hurley and his robot. That would be awesome. There we
Okay.
just there's that's from our Kidlit Enterprises subsidiary of Empathy Engine, subsidiary of Decoded, right?
Yeah, yeah, you got it.
Mr. Hurley and his robot.
Okay, so I do need to write this down because listen,
Okay.
I'm busy day to day, but I drive around, and
Okay.
sometimes I have holes in my schedule. So if I'm
Yep.
near, so I got to break into Rochelle's school, and if anybody's listening, this sounds
this
so
is
bad, right?
this is not evidence.
No,
This cannot be used against because
this is
it's a fiction. This is a fiction. Completely
imagine
fictional.
me being in court and then somebody playing this.
It'd be
They're like,
horrible if this was used by court evidence before it was actually reviewed by your family as heartfelt Easter eggs.
so
Totally want the boys to see this content before you're like sitting in court. You're like, oh yeah, by the way, I've been doing a podcast for 6 years. Looks where it led me. Look where it led me.
yeah, break into Rochelle's school and then get Gary a certificate. Now, Gary,
Mhm.
um, one of your colleagues, initials LS. I talk to him often, and he always says, "Why don't you come by and say hello?" I'm like, "Bro, I'm not supposed to be in your building. I don't have students there." He's like, "Are you allowed to eat lunch?" I'm like, "I think so." He's like, "Why don't you come over and have lunch?" I'm like, I don't know. But anyway, so Gary, I am gonna. You know what, Gary? It's worth getting written up to go to your school and give you that certificate if somebody decides to write me up for being.
Is, is that the final? I like that. Is that the T-shirt for the final 10
That's.
years of our career?
I get how many chances
It's
before I
it
get
will
fired? Like 5.
no,
So
no, not that's too many words. Too many words for that. But for the T-shirt, it's like this is worth getting written up for, right? This is worth it.
okay. So Rochelle says, "Is it the old church pew bench?" I want to say yes, Rochelle. So Rochelle knows the bench I'm talking about at the
That's
CEC.
awesome.
Hurley's been up, okay, since 4, but he
Mhm.
said he went to the doctor this week to talk about this business.
Dude, you're like, or I'm at least as old as you. I'll
No,
do it the other way around.
he's going to be 65 in a
I
couple of
am
months.
nowhere near as old as you. Congratulations in a couple weeks.
Yes,
Um,
congratulations. Oh, sorry. And he's going to go vacuum now. So
See, there we go. Ramona's bacon. He's vacuuming, and
thanks, Hurley.
yeah, there we go. Peace, bro. That's funny. Maybe ears were ringing? I don't know.
Uh,
Nice,
Steven says to Gary he got a Swiss Army knife at 20 years. That is
nice.
cool. They're not giving out knives anymore, though.
That'd be
Imagine
good for
that.
me. I would take that as like that's a met. I'm like out piece. I would say like I would like that. I would like you gave me a Swiss Army knife, man. That is totally how I feel in the system. I would appreciate that. It is kind of funny
I'd
though,
like it too.
giving an educator a pocket knife. Like you can't because I actually I it's funny. I have two. I have a knife that I got from my actually three, I guess. One that my father-in-law gave me way back in the day. I have one that I bought for myself, and then my family bought me a Swiss Army knife. I like having a pocket knife. I do. I will say it's entirely useful. Opening things, scraping things, fixing things, cutting up my lunch. I like it. But it's not a great thing to have in your pocket and accidentally have it fall out, right? So I don't carry it as often as I do, as I should, as I would like to. Oh, here we go. He's got a headache. What's going on?
I'm sorry about I didn't mean to do that in the middle of your knife talk. But Gary just posted something that I'm going to post that's upsetting me
Okay.
because now in court I'm really screwed. And imagine me watching myself say that in court. I'm really screwed. So let me say, first of all, wouldn't it be epic if we both had pocket knives given to us by our districts, and then when we go to do Foodapalooza, we're cutting food with the
That's all.
knives given
There
to
we
us by
go.
them? That would be
Yep.
cool. So, Gary, thank you, Gary. I'm about to get 5 years in jail for this. So, Gary says, I don't need a certificate. Translation, don't come to the school. Don't come to the school. So now there's going to be proof that I signed in. I went to see, and I'm going to write on it who's the contact, Mr. K in student success. And then they're going to say to him, "Why was Chidiak here to see you?" Well, now he's got proof. Well, he wanted to give me a certificate. I didn't tell him to come give me the certificate.
There we go.
Now I'm in court. Thanks, Gary. Now look at this business, Gary says, but he'd love to see me at lunch. So this is his way of saying, you want to come during your lunch, Chidiac? Go for it. But if you're coming to drop off a certificate and the board calls me and says, "Why is Chidiac there visiting you?" Gary's
I
like,
don't
"Hands
even know.
off."
Hands
Thanks a
off.
lot, Gary.
Here we go.
Leave it to this is he's being astute. He's showing us his experience and his wisdom, right? He's
Mhm, mhm,
being he's watching his back. I appreciate that, Gary.
mhm.
Whereas Rochelle is like, "Bust in, bro." Rochelle, I don't even know what room you're in anymore. When I was there, you were on a corner near the teacher parking spaces. Are you still in that corner, Rochelle, or did they give you a room with windows? Because Rochelle was in the same
Nice.
space as me with the tiny window, where like
Yeah,
even if I wanted to break in, I'd have to lose like 10,000 pounds to get through that window.
I've spent time in classes like that. I've called them the bunker classrooms. They're just like bunkers, lots of
Yes,
concrete. Very,
yes.
yeah.
My room was all concrete.
Hmm.
And the only sit and it was perfectly positioned in the building. I've told you the boys' bathroom was right there, which is awesome.
You had
One of the
easy egress too, right? Like
yeah,
you could get right out to the park. Yeah.
and then getting to the parking lot where I
Mhm.
would go to. Nobody cared to see me. Nobody was going to live in that space. It was good for all the wrong reasons, but I loved it. I loved it. And then that little room. I wish that we had been buddies, that you had been coming down here to eat at those times, because I would have loved to take you through that school. It was a really
Mhm.
cool building. I liked the environment there. I just didn't like the classes I had to teach in that building. And the room I was in, I don't know if I told you this, my father-in-law taught in that same room and he
Oh,
retired from
no.
that
I
school.
I
Yeah.
did not know that.
So my father-in-law retired from that school, and he retired from that room when he left. So when I told him that I was there, or I was going there, he was stoked to hear that I was going to be in his old room. Um, so good times. Um, Gary says, people over paper,
People over paper.
P versus P, people over paper. Some
Mhm.
people really care about people, and some people really care about paper.
Yep.
I like a little bit of both. I like a
Yeah, I
little
would
bit of
agree.
both.
I would agree.
So this is what I wanted to land on about half an hour ago.
Okay.
Bro, I had this really cool idea this morning that isn't mine. It's already out there. Oh,
Okay.
I love it. Nobody still in the corner. No one can find me. Oh, Rochelle, that is friggin' golden. So if I must return to my place of being at Rochelle's school. So Rochelle's got a classroom in a corner. Her classroom is close to the door that leaves out to go. She's in a sweet spot because she's very close to the front door in the main office, but nobody ever wants to go down the hall Rochelle is in. She's
Mhm.
very close to the photocopier and the staff room, so she could have her food in the fridge and pick up copies that she prints on her computer. And she's very close to a bathroom, and she's very close to the door that leads out to her car. It
Mhm.
Nobody wants to go down that hall. Oh, Rochelle, that is sweet. You got a sweet room there. Okay,
That is
cool.
cool when that can accidentally happen and then you can intentionally keep it.
It
That's
took her
yeah.
principal 6 weeks last year to find her room. I love it.
And they didn't find the principal for a week because they were lost in that corner of the building. It's like, well, I don't know. We saw the principal walk down to the northeast corner a few days ago. You just hear crackling over the walkie. Help. Can't find way back.
And the school's big enough that if you wanted to go for a walk at recess, you
Mhm.
could get a zillion steps because it's literally the building's a rectangle.
Those
So,
are the good ones. They're like
yeah.
the square donut kind of an idea. You can get right around a full hub. I like those ones. The
Oh,
school I'm in right now is not like that. It's like
your school's
layers of
Frankenstein.
it's like yeah, layers of H's. It's like all kind of
Yeah.
H like so you can go back and forth, but there's no really nice there's no not really. You could maybe there's one in the center, but it's not satisfying. So anyways. Yeah, and there's some and it is. There's like Frankenstein's a good way to say it.
The one school I worked at where PG is now the principal, they called it Hogwarts because there were so many stairs going
Yeah.
everywhere. That was that was cool. Um, we could do a whole podcast on location of classrooms within a building because
Mhm.
I've had some sweet classrooms positioned beautifully that nobody. That's the funny thing too. When I've walked into a new school as the new person, they always give you they always give you what nobody wants because everybody ends up
Depends.
well, okay,
Depends.
in
Yeah,
my
because
situation.
sometimes there's classrooms that have been anointed with specific programming, and if you
Oh,
happen to come into the program, you could be second year teacher, but if you're the one coming in, some of the community classroom spaces are like that, as in the classroom is dedicated no matter who the teacher is. But then there's a whole lot of other ones where teachers have just been kind of squatting there for years.
so then context is important. So
Mhm.
let me honor that because and you're also in secondary and that's different too because I've
True,
walked
true,
into
true.
secondary buildings that have great spaces. So in my context as an elementary school teacher, I'm not walking into anything special. I'm walking into a classroom that is meant for the masses, the center of a EDU, okay?
Mhm.
So I in my experience, I've received the classroom spaces that nobody wants because it's
Yeah.
like, okay, we're hiring a grade 2 teacher. Okay, Chidiak's the new hire. but before everybody leaves for June, they go to the principal. They're like, I don't want that room anymore. Give it. They don't say give it to Chidiac. They just say, since Joe Blow left,
They
I want
might.
Joe
They
Blow's
might.
room, and Chidiac can have. So I've always ended up having rooms that nobody wants, but I've seen them as the sweetest room in the building for certain reasons, right? Like when I went to the school Rochelle is at, nobody wanted my room. My
Mm.
room was perfect for me. I had a 3D printer in the little side room screaming all day long, and nobody was complaining. I had hallway space. I had acres of hallway space where my kids could work in the hallway and not disturb anybody else, right?
I love it. Acres.
I had
I get
acres of
I
hallway
get it. I get
space
it. Yeah.
because if you were to see that room, I had hallway to the left, hallway to the right, and hallway right out my door. And nobody was there was no other classrooms close by. So it was perfect that way. I had the bathroom wasn't close, but that's okay because I got my steps going to the bathroom, but the printer was close. The door to get to my car was close. I was I could come in on a Saturday and work and nobody would ever know I was there. Nobody outside would see me in my window and know I was there and bother me while I was working. Like it was
I've never done that before.
never done what?
Gone in on a Saturday.
Oh,
Yeah, I've never done that. Just as you say it. Yeah, I was like, I was kind of nodding my head, and I'm like, I've never done that. It is funny though. Recently I did think to do it. I thought, oh, because I was like trying to opportunize, kind of managing a bunch of different kind of like factors. I'm like, yeah, if I could just go in 2 hours on the Saturday. But generally, yeah, I've never done that, dude. That's fascinating. I've never actually done that.
and back when the boys were younger, I'd take them in on a Saturday and I would turn on a picture popped up on Facebook the other day that I pushed out on X of my two boys. One of them's laying down, one of them's standing, and they're watching. Um, shoot, I can't remember the name of the show, but it's about Johnny. I can't remember the full name of the show, but it's about Johnny, this kid Johnny, and I'm working in the classroom. They're watching the cartoon, so it was perfect because they weren't at home bothering my wife. They were with me and they were safe and they were enjoying themselves, and I was getting work done that needed to get done before Monday. So it was like perfect situation. Um, okay, now Rochelle says that you could do a figure eight walk in her building. That is so true. Sometimes if her students need a body break, we do that. 100%.
Mm,
That building is perfect for stuff like that. And she's talking about PG's school. It's easy to get lost. She's supply
mhm,
taught in the
mhm.
basement. Yes, it is easy to get lost. And I tell you, stairs everywhere. So it's a nightmare. It's an accessibility nightmare. That's how it was built at the time. Um, I was right by the elevator, which is by the gym, which is by the parking lot. I had a sweet spot there too. Um, but didn't last long. But anyway, okay. So this morning, getting ready for the podcast, I was thinking about. So I like to go into Twitter Spaces, and there's a
Mhm.
one space on Friday nights that's kind of fun. And I just had this thought that this evolution and the metaverse, where it'd be kind of cool. You're in a Twitter space, you put your headset on, and then you can see the 15 other people in the same Twitter space and interact with them and see them as their avatar. You
Mhm.
never really know who they are, but you can interact with them.
Mhm.
I don't know why. And I when I was thinking about this an hour ago, I had a lot more to say in a very like in a more sophisticated way. And now as I'm talking an hour later, it's like just I want to bring that idea that wouldn't it be cool if you and I did our podcast and rather than the graphical user interface we have here now. We've got our headset on our mic and we just put the goggles on and we could be sitting in any space anywhere in the world. Literally
Mhm.
you could be sitting beside me, I could be talking to you, and then Rochelle pops in the room and Gary pops in the room and Stephen Hurley pops in the room. And literally, like we don't know who's in the room unless they make a comment. But imagine
Right.
they're doing our podcast and then boom, this little avatar pops up. It's like, hey, it's Rochelle. Rochelle, what's going on? And Rochelle can respond like a text will pop up in the metaverse that
Mhm.
Rochelle's saying something. or a voice speaks. Rochelle's avatar speaks based on what her comment is that we see here in the YouTubes that I can see. I know you can't see them, but they would just pop up like this, and we're like, "Oh, Rochelle's saying something to us." How cool would that be?
It
How
would.
cool would that be? And I think we do have the tech to do it. It's not available to people like you and I. But I'm sure it's here. It's just not for the masses. I long for the day of the metaverse. That if I want to sit in a space on Twitter, I can put my goggles on and I can just pop up and be and look around and see all these other people represented by some kind of character avatar who's in this space listening to the speaker and then can jump in and speak if I want to or whatever. There's my Saturday morning tech wish, I guess.
No, I like it. I think you made me actually think. You got me sort of thinking in a completely different direction. What you got me thinking about was who knows, like we're in our seventh year of this. It made me wonder whether or not, is the next iteration of this, do we figure out how to do it on Meta? Do you know what I mean? Like, do we say that we do it there instead of, like, if we could do this same thing on YouTube without having to use, I always forget it, StreamYard. If we could do it without StreamYard, that would be interesting. That'd be interesting to take one interface out of that. It works well with YouTube, but if we could do this, I don't think you can though. We couldn't do this directly on YouTube, could we? Can we?
I don't know. I've not done any
Yeah,
research on that.
me
Maybe we
neither.
do. I think we do need something to.
You need something in there,
Yeah.
an API, some sort of. You need something on your computers to be able to go directly to there.
I
I
wonder
remember,
why YouTube hasn't built that into YouTube yet.
like a two-person, because
Like you just come into
we
YouTube and
we
there's a
looked at
studio.
this. No, we did look at this at some point to try and do YouTube Live, and there was something stopped us. I forget. I remember you and I had this conversation trying to do YouTube Live, and we were like, but there was something we had to have in our computers in order to
We
and the scheduling.
we had to
I
do
don't know.
something with software. We had to
Yeah, there
download
was some
something.
software.
It wasn't easy. I remember at the
No,
time it was kind of complicated.
I think it was intentionally
Uh,
complicated to keep. You know what I mean? Like,
we needed like a codec or something. That's the
that's
word
what it
that
was.
pops
It
into my
was a
head.
codec. Yep, you're right. That's what it was. That's exactly what it was, bro. So
Man, what a way to kick off our seventh season.
this was sweet. Lots of great chatter. So this is where I got to.
Okay, I gotta make my oh, for goodness sake. Okay, what do we got? Oh, it looks like a virus. What is that? It's a blob with many different holding an apple, a calligraphy pen, a regular pen, a mug, and a calculator?
Yeah, we could
Oh,
say that.
oh,
Keyboard.
oh,
Who
sorry.
cares?
So isn't it cool
Keyboard.
how I
Yeah.
interpret your drawing?
Yeah.
What's the
Little.
blob in the middle? Just
I don't know. It
oh,
was. I actually had accidentally spilled some paint on the page, so I looked over at it sitting in front of me. I'm like, I can do something with that.
you turned it into a blob. I love it.
So that's our little leap off virus into season 7. Season
Leap
7.
off virus. I like it.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, this was a good one.
It
Do you
was
have
cool that Hurley dropped by. Hurley, has he ever dropped by? We've been
well,
like summoning the ghost of Hurley. Like,
so there's a little so here's the backstory. So
did he
sometimes
know on
what I
X?
do on Twitter
Yeah.
is um I I'm on Twitter's right here in this window that I've got open, and
Mhm.
sometimes what I do is I the initial tweet with the link to us, then I respond to it and I just tweet this is what we're talking about right now. And when you called him a baron, I tweeted at him from my original tweet, and I'm like, "Yo, bro, Chris just called you a baron of the audio world." And then so then he came. We did a little bit of back and forth, and then he's like, "Are you guys still on Decoded?" I'm like, "Yeah, seventh season, bro." So then he came over to check it out,
That's
dropped
cool.
a couple of comments, and yeah. So that's how that happened. So yeah, you're right. We have in the past, you've summoned him, you've said his name, and
Mhm.
you're like, "Was he gonna walk in?" And
It takes 6 seasons. It takes 7 summonings. 7 summonings to stream Steven. There's another alliteration. He listens to this content, he's gonna love it. He's a word guy. He's a word guy too, so
well, it's funny that you say he's a word guy because he responded with Baron, Baron, or Baron, Barren. He's like, "Which Baron is Chris calling me?" Right? Exactly. He's playing with the words. So then I
Yeah, he
told
is.
him which one, and then he came over. Yeah. But okay. So let's see if I have enough. I have a project.
Okay.
Break into Rochelle's school, get Gary
Just
that
in
certificate.
summary,
In summary, so 23 years, Gary. Okay. Let's see. A couple of things have to happen. I have
let,
to
let
make
me let me say one more thing. Congratulations, Gary. Like seriously, we're in it to win it like you. 23 years. Like I know we're going light, but 23 years in this gig, like that's awesome. So seriously, I don't know your work, but I know the work. I don't have your life, but I'm sort of trying to make mine work nicely with doing this stuff. So congratulations, dude. Congratulations.
I agree. Congratulations to Gary. In order for me to go to his school and get written up, I have to one of the prerequisites is that I'm relatively close. So if I'm not going to be, in Cambridge at two elementary schools and then be like, "Oh, I have to make sure I get to Gary's school." I can't do that. That's not cool. I'm not going to get written up that way. If I'm going to
Mm,
get written up, I need to be in Waterloo, or at the
it's
very
got to be
least
worth it. Got to
I
be
need
worth it.
I need to be at the Kitchener Bosco site, and it might be one of those. I'm done visiting schools for the day, but I still have
Mm,
time in my work day. So on my way home, I'll swing by and I'll come in. Gary, you'll have to message me when you have prep time, because that might be a good thing too. And he might not, and that's fine. You don't have to tell me, Gary. Okay, because I know you don't want any proof that you were part of me doing this. I get it. The court, your honor. I hope you understand your honor.
here.
Okay. And then Rochelle, I have no clue when your planning time is, but Rochelle's school is close to Gary's school, so this could be a double header. It,
Nice.
it could be. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I'm really banking on progressive discipline with all this. Um,
They do have that for educators, don't they? Do we
they
get
do.
progressive discipline
I
too?
don't think they can just fire me for that. I think that
Okay.
somebody. Here's the other thing. Here's the loophole. Someone has to call
Here's
me
the
in. Someone has to call me in and tell me that I'm getting a verbal warning. Like they
Oh,
can't
that's
just.
true. That
I
is
have.
true.
Yes.
But I think it
No,
depends on
bro.
what you do.
No.
I think they
Okay.
can very quickly go from verbal warning to, and while you're here, we're also going to give you your second progressive level of discipline. Thanks for coming in.
I don't think they can hit me with two in the same meeting. I don't think they can do that.
Well, that just means they schedule for an 11 o'clock and a 12 o'clock. You're like, why'd you give me two meetings? You'll
Okay,
find out at the second meeting.
if they do that, then fair enough. But they can't call me in for what appears to be one meeting on my calendar invite and then hit me with two. And I don't think I'm doing anything here that's going to get me fired.
All
I
right.
don't think. If they
Gotcha.
they're going to be in trouble if they fire me over this. I don't think they can, Your Honor.
Feel like you're finger wagging at the education system. Don't do
Progr-
it.
I'm banking on progressive discipline.
Yeah. And the evidence is all here. Finish your thoughts. Sorry.
Gary says anytime he can come out. Gary, bro, it doesn't make a difference if you come out of your building. I'm still at your building. And
Oh,
if you come
oh,
out, the cameras are going to see you. They're going to be like, on this day at this time, Mr. K left the building to meet with Mr. Chidiak. What were they doing in the parking lot?
dun, 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 dun.
That's all. I'm done. So on that note, Gary
You did
says,
well.
have a great, thank you. Have a great weekend. You too, Gary. And Rochelle wishes us a good weekend. You too,
Thank you,
Rochelle.
Rochelle. Thank you both for coming and hanging with us.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
we do appreciate your time, even though we joke. We do
We
appreciate.
must be doing something for them. We must be doing something for them, right?
We're no,
Like
unfortunately, they've built a routine that they can't get rid of
that's
easily because it's a
that is
routine. It's a
it
habit.
is true. I hope they're doing something else to help their wellness too, like meditating or on the treadmill, something that fortifies this sugar coated experience on Saturday mornings. Peace,
Okay.
bro.
Yeah, peace to you too, and make sure everybody that I want to remind you who's going to lift the Dugs.
Who's gonna lift the Dugs? Who let the dog out? No, who lifted the dog up? Who who who
This was season 7, episode 1, number 266 of the Decoded Podcast. Peace, bro.
Ciao.